Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the stream and happy Tuesday. Is everybody having a great week? That's my number one priority to figure out if everybody's doing good. It's been a minute since I've seen you guys, and I know I owe you a huge explanation for that. Long story short, my apartment is like falling apart before my very eyes. You guys already know this somewhat, at least, but it's gotten a little crazy. A few months ago, so November 15th-ish, I live on the 19th floor of my apartment in South Florida. The 19th floor started flooding underneath our floors. Got really crazy. Long story short, it turned out that the windows were not sealed properly when they built this beautiful brand new building that I live in. I was one of the first tenants for, and the problem has just kept exacerbating. So they've had to rip out all of my floors, my drywalls twice, reinstall them twice. They're now starting to do repair on the exterior of the building, finally, but it's been a journey and a half to get here. Just the last couple of days have gotten really bad with some of the external work and has thrown the Wi-Fi off and on a few times. So because of all the loud banging and the lack of connection, we weren't able to stream on Friday or yesterday, Monday, but we're back and it feels so good to be back for the stream. My whole day gets thrown off if I don't get to stream with you guys because it is truly the highlight of every single afternoon, getting to know you guys and building a little sense of community for our stream on our corner of the internet. So, long story short, welcome back. We got a lot to talk about, including the fact that this week Seattle is hosting the first ever Fat convention. Yeah, we're gonna have a lot to talk about when it comes to that. And rumors are circulating everywhere on Twitter, namely that Michelle Obama is in fact running for president of the United States. You guys know I'm going to have a lot to say about that at the second hour of the stream, but we're going to dive right into Seattle's FatCon after we say hi to some people in our live chat. If you're joining us for the first time ever on the stream, you'll know now that these are truly live streams. It is 3:10 p.m. Eastern time. I'm sitting in the spare bedroom of my apartment talking to you guys in real time, word vomiting all of my thoughts as we do on the live stream. And we want to hear from you as well as just me, more importantly. So wherever you're watching, YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, Getter, Locals, or Instagram, since we're on Instagram now, drop your name and where you're watching from, especially if you're new, in the chat. And don't forget to use the live chat throughout our conversation today because we're dying to know your guys' opinions on both FatCon and a potential President Obama 2.0. Let's start things over on YouTube today because YouTube, shout out, has been popping off this week. There was a segment of our stream about Star Wars that went like mega viral in the YouTube algorithm, so we have a lot of new people joining us as of late. Welcome if you are new. G-Fact is kicking us off in our YouTube chat, says the Queen is back. Total Package and Uber Bad Boy are here. We've got Brant and Los Ravosa watching. Naruto is back. Ben is watching in Germany. Thank you that you mentioned the protests of the farmers here in Germany on your stream a few days ago. It's been a really emotional day and there will be more protests in the future. We are cheering you guys on, all of you farmers in Germany, and really glad to see amazing people like my friend Ava drawing attention to this on social media. We've got Jacob watching, Victory and Company, and Samuel and more. So glad you guys are here. Over on Rumble, TZ Patriot, Tuco Wright, and Justin are watching. John Best says, howdy, Isabel. I just want to thank you for the stream that you have. I have a Gen Z daughter, and listening to you, I have understood her better. Thank you. Oh, you guys are so sweet. I love you so much. We've got Morgan's watching from Anchorage, the best news in the entire world. You guys know that's where I want to live in a perfect world. Someday I will make it to my cabin in Alaska. Someday. Brock is not co-streaming with us today. He is working today. But I'll let him know that you say hi, Morgans. Omnifus and Just Peachy are watching. We've got Roxy Jake saying, I'm a new viewer. Welcome, Roxy. We are so glad that you're here. Over on Locals, we got a new picture of Alex's corgi. I will say this. I said this on People of the Internet a couple of days ago. I don't like the word influencer at all. I really don't believe in this word. I think it's really weird when people call themselves influencers because I genuinely believe you cannot call yourself an influencer other people are the only people allowed to say that you have influenced them in some specific or important way. So I hate the whole influencer culture and the word influencer. I would much rather be called a content creator. However, I will take credit as an influencer in one situation and one situation only, and that is convincing all of you guys that the best dogs in the entire world are in fact corgis. There is no other dog breed that comes remotely close to the supremacy of the corgi. I have my own cutie corgi sleeping in her bed in the other room right now, and now I have indoctrinated all of you to have your own corgis as well. So Alex Padron, shout out, daily viewer of the stream, friend now, hopefully future streamer himself. We love you, Alex. Got himself a corgi over the holidays, and he is so darned cute. Jorge, you're the cutest corgi I've ever seen, minus my dog. And you all should go buy corgis, and I'm proud to call myself an influencer in this one particular situation. So Alex is here. We've got Crazy Cat Lady, Sabina, African Warlord, and more. You guys are the absolute best. I love you so much over on Locals. I see Nitty Witty on Getter and on Instagram. A zillion people joining us. Instagram, also shout out to you. You grew this account like insane amounts over the weekend, like impossible, unpredictable amounts over the weekend. So especially if you're new, we're really glad that you guys are here and joining us for the stream. We've got people watching in Honduras, in Tennessee, in Poland, in Colorado, Finland, in Napa Valley, California, Switzerland, the Netherlands, all over the freaking place. You guys, I'm so glad that we have this community continuing to grow. Lithuania, North Carolina, Ohio, another one from Denver, Portugal, France, Virginia, California. Just kidding. We love you. We love the sane people in California. We don't love the place. Argentina, Miami, Arizona, Indiana, Tennessee, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Utah, all over the freaking world. It's the coolest thing in the entire world, by the way. And I don't think I'll ever quite get over this, that I have people watching this live stream in real time from literally every single corner of the globe. Like, that blows my mind. So especially when you guys are watching from international locations, thank you for letting us know. It makes our day here over on the stream. And I'm sorry that we sadly have to present to you the sad stories of the insanity that is coming out of the upside down that is the United States of America in the 2020s. So that's a good segue to go into what I want to start the stream with today. Today's a double stream with 2 full hours because I knew that we weren't going to be able to stream yesterday. So buckle the freak up. You don't have to stay the whole time if you can't, but we're going to have a lot of fun stuff to talk about with these 2 stories, and then an open forum Q&A for all of you guys since we have so many new people on YouTube and on Instagram. First and foremost, I think we just got to get the elephant out of the room in this new convention that's being held in Seattle. And I'm just going to say this up front once to clear the air and establish a very clear foundation of what we're talking about. FatCon is very easy to poke fun at. There's a lot of jokes that can be made. It's an easy thing to make fun of on the internet, and that's the vein that most people are taking in this conversation. In no way, shape, or form am I trying to say that people attending FatCon or the people promoting FatCon are not worthy of love or not worthy of friendship or are not worthy of community. They absolutely are. People are people, and I really do believe that all people are made in the image of God for a purpose and for a reason for such a time as this. That's anybody, even people who I would vehemently disagree with or people who have very different lifestyles than myself. However, I think this whole celebration of obesity and this entire celebration of an unhealthy lifestyle is really profoundly sad. And the level that we've brought people to in society to buy into this ideology is really profoundly sad. So that's the angle that we're taking in this conversation. I'm sure we'll giggle. I'm sure there's some low-hanging fruit in some of the jokes that people are going to make in the chat. And I'm sure you guys will make me laugh. I will go to confession afterwards because I'm going to need to. But this, I think, is a really great opportunity for all of us to just evaluate how sad it has gotten in our celebration of unhealthy lifestyles, of disease, and of premature death, because that's exactly what all of this leads to at the end of the day. So I found out that Seattle was going to be hosting this thing called FatCon, Fat Convention, for the first time ever this January through a video that was going mega viral on TikTok. And I guess they had partnered with some TikTok influencer, like a body positive influencer, to help promote FatCon and try to get more people to attend it. So this was my first and really only exposure to FatCon whatsoever when I first heard about it.
I'm going to FatCon in Seattle, Washington, January 5th through 7th, and I want to see you there. FatCon is a 3-day fat liberation celebration, y'all. We will be celebrating fat liberation, body acceptance, and the power of being in fat community.
So let's just pause right there for a second. So they're celebrating something called fat liberation. What fat liberation actually means, I have truly no idea. At first, I thought fat liberation meant liberating the fat from yourself, like losing weight, in which case you kind of had me. But then she goes into this whole different section of the conversation about the importance of being in fat community and celebrating fat acceptance, etc. Chat, if anyone knows what fat liberation actually means, please pipe up in the chat because I would love to know.
With over 60 hours of programming spanning from policy, legislation, healthcare, community, and visual arts, plus a ton more.
So they're talking about policy about fat people, legislation about fat people, healthcare. That's good. Presumably, that's really positive.
It's sure to be something you don't want to miss. The vibes are going to be immaculate. With a fat brunch, a fat fashion show, and a fat vendor marketplace, there is so much to do. Plus,
okay, low-key though, I said this when the video first came out. I'm going to say it again. Fat brunch sounds incredible. Fat brunch sounds like heaven on a plate. Fat brunch sounds like it would give me diabetes just from looking at it. And you know that it's going to taste really, really good. So is it bad of me to want to go to fat brunch? Maybe. Is it a little hypocritical of me to want to go to fat brunch? Probably. But doesn't that sound absolutely amazing?
There's some really cool experiences you can sign up for, like some fat liberation photo shoots and some incredible shopping experiences with 2 big lawns.
So again, what is a fat liberation photo shoot? Chat, anybody? Anybody? I can't.
Being in fat community with other fat people who just accept you for who you are and get it is such a great experience, and I want every single person watching this to be able to have that experience with us. Ticket sales for the FatCon are going to be ending very soon. You can go to the link in my bio and use code JBAE to save 25% on your ticket.
So clearly they partnered with this influencer to try to get people to buy more tickets to FatCon. I don't really know the whole relationship there, but this is obviously a promotional video to try to get people to go to FatCon. I would know. I promote a lot of conferences on my own social media accounts. I got one to share with you later today as well, if any of you guys are going to be in Washington, D.C. for the weekend of the March for Life. So I see videos like this all the time, but I've never seen one for FatCon in which you're encouraged to be more fat.
I hope to see each and every one of you at the FatCon in Seattle, Washington, January 5th through 7th.
Also, just like the way she says it at the FatCon, that feels really bizarre to me. So I see this video, and like many of you, have a lot of thoughts. I'm like, WTF is FatCon? I have literally no idea what is going on right now. I made fun of it a little bit, but then I was like, actually, this is really sad. And one thing that this woman said in the video really got to me and sunk in a very profound way. She said, it's super important, and I'm paraphrasing, you guys just watched it, for fat people to be in fat community, to find people who accept you just the way you are, to find people who will be friends with you and love you just the way you are. And while I think there is this element of societal push for truth with that, that is fundamentally antithetical to what the truth is supposed to be. And let me explain that for a second. We've created this narrative and spun this narrative in society over the last several decades, and I think it started probably with the participation trophy era and generation, that you are perfect just the way you are, that you should be fully accepted, fully loved, fully cherished, fully yourself, just the way you are. I mean, how many times has every single person watching this stream, chat, let me know, been told by your parents, by your friends, by your boyfriend, by your husband, by your teacher, by your mentor, by your boss, you are perfect just the way you are. I mean, we literally repeat this sentiment over and over and over and over and over again in culture and society, to the point that I think it's really taken over self-care culture. Girl, you're perfect just the way you are. Pour yourself a glass of rosé and get in a bubble bath. Screw everybody else who thinks otherwise, because you are perfect just the way you are. And a few years ago, Allie Beth Stuckey wrote a phenomenal book kind of addressing this concept called You Are Not Enough, and That's Okay, because we've really tangled this up in so many different societal mantras. It's not just you are perfect just the way you are. Now it's you're enough just the way you are. You are always going to be enough just the way you are. And her whole hypothesis and premise in this book was that you are not enough, because humanity can never be enough by ourselves. That's why we needed a savior in Jesus Christ. But this whole you're perfect just the way you are thing, I think, is best addressed by Jordan Peterson, who arguably is the smartest human being that's ever existed, but certainly is a once-in-a-generation mind currently here on Earth right now. I don't think there is anyone else on the face of the planet that remotely holds a candle to the intellect, to the philosophy, and to the ability to articulate that intellect than Jordan B. Peterson. He's incredible, and I am like a mega super fan of all of it. But he addresses this you are perfect just the way you are concept really frequently in his speeches, in his books, in the content that he puts out on the internet. And the way that he says this is really profoundly simple. You are not perfect just the way you are, because the human experience is supposed to be about improvement. And if you're watching this stream right now, I want you to think about the version of yourself that exists today, not just your body composition and what your body looks like and how often you go to the gym or what you put into your body to fuel it. Okay, we can talk about being fat versus skinny in a second, but every single thing about yourself, your personality, your relationships, your emotional tendencies, the things that you tend to struggle with, and the things that you regularly go back to sin over and over and over for. How well you take care of yourself is a huge part of this. Are you exercising? Are you regularly fueling your body with healthy foods? Are you getting enough sleep? How you are today, the version of yourself that exists right now at 3:24 p.m. Eastern Time on January 9th, 2024. Would you be okay with that being the only version of yourself that gets to exist in perpetuity forever? Would that be okay with you? I hope the answer is no, but that's not a rhetorical question. So chat, let me know. Would that be okay with you to be this version of yourself for the rest of time in any part of who you are? Your emotions, your relationships, your exercise habits, your health, etc. Trevor says not at all on Instagram. I wouldn't be okay with that. Nitty Witty says nobody's perfect. Facts. That's why we got to keep striving to improve. And now I'm going to have Hannah Montana stuck in my head for the rest of the day. Everybody makes mistakes. It's fine. We'll come back to that. Alex Padron, no, I would not be okay with this version of myself right now. Omnifist Production says be your authentic self is now a far left dog whistle, unfortunately. Facts. This literally has just become a realm of leftist talking points. David says no. Juan says no. Lenag says absolutely not. Chris, no. Alec, no. I'm still improving. Blessed King, hell no. Everybody's saying no, 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 no. I would never want to be this version of myself, right? And I think about the versions of myself that have existed in chapters past, when I was in high school, when I was in college, when I was in my young 20s, well before I met my fiance, and I thank God from the bottom of my heart, I am not the version of Isabel Brown that existed a year ago, or 2 years ago, or 5 years ago, or 10 years ago. And I hope and pray that I will be a better and more improved version of myself a year from today, and 5 years from today, and 10 years from today, and God willing, 20 or 30 or 50 years from today, because that's what being a human being is all about. We are supposed to struggle. We are supposed to challenge ourselves. We're supposed to do hard things for the sake of doing hard things, to become more well-rounded and better equipped and stronger people for it. This idea that you are perfect just the way you are immediately stunts where you are at to the version of who you are today and leaves you no room for self-improvement for the rest of time, which is why I think it's really damaging that parents have bought into this you're perfect just the way you are soft core parenting thing. And I'm not a parent. I won't pretend to be an expert on one, but we've seen that generationally bought into by the parents of my generation. And look what's happening in droves. Look especially what's happening with Generation Alpha. That's about 11 years, 12 years old and younger in America today. These kids are ruthless and have no sense of societal cues or awareness, because millennials who were parented by the participation trophy parents are now parenting their children with this soft core parenting. You're perfect just the way you are. Everything's great. Yay, soft parenting. I'll get on your level and I'll never discipline you and I'll never yell at you and I'll never tell you that you can be a better version of yourself, because that just doesn't exist. You're perfect. Obviously, we now live in a society where people don't have respect for one another, or certainly respect for themselves. Obviously, we live in a time where people are struggling with anxiety and depression and thoughts of suicide, because if you're not trying to improve yourself, you sit back and think, well, what's the point of life? Like, what is the point of all of this anyway? Why am I even here if I'm just here to exist as a blob, literally, and never question anything bigger for a purpose for my life? Obviously, our relationships start falling apart when we're not being the best versions of ourselves. It's why we have extremely low marriage rates and extremely high divorce rates. It's why people don't want to have children, because if you're not trying to be a better version of yourself, how are you possibly going to encourage your child to be a better version of themselves? This spills out into a zillion directions in culture and society that I think we never have thought about really deeply until now, those larger societal implications of the "you are perfect just the way you are" mantra, because it feels really good to say, and it sounds really good to say, and it sounds like you're really loving and accepting and you cherish people when you tell them they're perfect just the way you are. But the truth is, if you value yourself, and especially if you value other people, if you value your partner or your siblings or your best friends or anybody in your family or your coworkers or people that you spend time with, you would want to encourage them to challenge themselves. You would want to encourage them to push themselves to be the best possible versions of who they could be. You want people to feel a little uncomfortable every once in a while, because it's only when you feel uncomfortable that you're willing to grow. This sounds so cheesy, so bear with me, but this is like classic Isabel story time. When I was growing up, I used to go to summer camp every single summer at the coolest summer camp in the entire world in Keystone, Colorado. I am a diehard summer camp kid. I moved all the time when I was a kid. We changed schools all the time. I had different friends all the time. But the one thing that always remained constant throughout almost all of my childhood was going back to summer camp every single summer. And I ended up working at that camp as a counselor. Someday it would be the coolest thing ever to send my kids to that camp if they're still operational. Love camp, will until the day that I die. But our summer camp was like an outdoor adventure camp in the mountains of Colorado. It wasn't like, oh, let's make friendship bracelets and go swim in the lake. It was like, let's go climb a 14,000 foot mountain and shove a 5-year-old down class 5 rapids in whitewater rafting, and go rock climbing where you're probably going to fall and get scraped up, and this is really difficult. Let's go backpacking in the woods and make sure that we have to hang a bear bag because you could get attacked by a bear in the middle of the night. It was all focused on challenging yourself. And we had this whole concept at camp when I was growing up that you have basically 3 zones of comfort levels as any human being. And I think this applies to adults and should be taught to adults now more than ever before as well. You have your comfort zone, the things that you are already really comfortable with. Your home, your school, your friends, your stuffed animals, your clothes, the food that you normally eat, etc. is your comfort zone. Right outside your comfort zone is your growth zone, where you feel a little uncomfortable every once in a while. You're challenging yourself. It's not necessarily something you would ordinarily choose to do, like climbing a mountain or going whitewater rafting or rock climbing up a sheer face of a cliff. And you think that you probably can do it, but it makes you a little nervous to do. Okay. And then outside of your growth zone, you have your panic zone, where you went way too far out of your comfort zone all at once and you start freaking out and you just can't handle it. The way that you continue to grow your comfort zone is to spend more time in the middle, in the growth zone, because all of a sudden you find yourself more and more comfortable doing things that ordinarily would have never been a part of your daily routine, right? And over time, they taught us this at summer camp, your comfort zone gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until everything really fits into your comfort zone because you were willing to challenge yourself to begin with. And this was like the cheesiest thing in the entire world to learn as a kid at summer camp. camp, right? It's like, oh, haha, what a cute little fun campfire thing to teach a kid. But how valuable to learn that lesson as a child, growing up in a world where everybody else was being told you're perfect just the way you are, never challenge yourself, never get out of your comfort zone, never try anything new, never push your body to do something that makes you uncomfortable, never go on an adventure, just curl up in a bubble bath and then wrap yourself in a down comforter and lay in your bed because that's what makes you you. And I have so much appreciation now as an adult that I'd never had before as a kid, knowing that that was so radically countercultural to teach kids at the time. Because the kids that grew up not learning about the comfort zone, growth zone, panic zone thing, but just being told you're perfect just the way you are probably attending events like this week. So this is FatCon. And again, we're still working out all of the formatting issues for everybody because I know some of you guys are watching on Instagram where it gets cropped in vertically. Everybody else is watching horizontally. So we're working on a good system for formatting here. But this is the website for FatCon. So I see the FatCon video, long story short. I decide to go look it up. It's going on this week. It already happened, January 5th through the 7th. So it just finished 2 days ago over the weekend. And fatcon.com, or whatever the Maltio address is for this, is advertising this wonderful event centered on fat joy. Get your ticket today. We've got ticket tiers for everyone. Find your fat joy and join the party. Join us January 5th through the 7th at the Hyatt at Olive 8 in downtown Seattle. Come enjoy what they are calling the biggest fat celebration of the year, with over 30 hours of programming, amazing keynote speakers, a fashion show, and a vendors hall, all geared towards generating fat joy and informing the fat experience. It's going to be the convention you've always wanted to attend. Again, lots of material here to laugh at, to giggle at, to make fun at. But also, I want us to just focus on the bigger picture at the 30,000 foot level. This is actually really sad. And that's not to say anybody who's overweight or obese or fat or has bought into fat body positive acceptance is a bad person. You're not. You're not a bad person. You're a good person that has been strategically lied to by society in order to buy into a lifestyle that's going to cause premature death and disease and pain in your life, and we're trying to celebrate that as empowerment or liberation somehow. So I want you to focus on that mantra as we continue going through this website. There are multiple ticket levels to attend FatCon. The lowest tier is called Fat Friend. You're a friend of the fat people. You love Fat Friendship, which gets you a full event pass, brunch on Sunday, access to our vendor hall, workshops, and more. Then you can upgrade to be a plump patron. If you upgrade to be a plump patron beyond Fat Friend, you get all kinds of extra stuff. You get a ribbon, you get a hospitality suite, you get priority registration. Oh, but there's more. Fat Bay is the next tier up. They will include priority seating for you throughout all of FatCon, a FatCon t-shirt, a VIP goodie bag, and a discount code to Fatlesque Fest, which I'm assuming is called burlesque for fat people. Am I reading into that right, chat? Fatlesque looks like burlesque for fatness, right? I'm not making that up. Like, that looks like what it is, right? Oh, but wait, there's more. Fat Royalty is the highest tier of ticket package that you could possibly have in going to FatCon this year. Not only does it have everything else, all the way up to the Fat Burlesque show, it also gave you a hotel room in the main venue and a custom badge design. And then, more importantly, they list the mission of FatCon here on their website. Our mission: to improve the lives of fat humans through art, health, public policy, and community outreach by improving visibility and uplifting the voices of people of size. I'm blind reacting to this right now, you guys. I hadn't read that before. People of size. I'm assuming that's the same idea as people of color, in which we're doing people first language to affirm the humanity of people. But people of size. I'm sorry. Isn't anyone a person of size? Isn't every single person a person of a certain size? So we're not saying overweight. We're not saying fat, although FatCon is the name of this conference. So supposedly they think fat is a positive word now. Now we're saying people of size. That's a new one that I've never heard before. I've never, ever even heard the suggestion to call a fat person a person of size. They say, we don't seek acceptance to finish out their mission statement. We seek fat liberation. Again, chat, if literally anyone can define fat liberation for me, that would be spectacular, because when I read the words fat liberation, I was pretty darn sure that that probably meant liberating the fatness from you, from your own body, but I can't. So, fun exercise for you, chat. No pun intended, because we love to exercise around here. I promised I would try not to do that. Fun exercise for you guys. Can you just try to guess for me, chat, what you think some of the keynotes and or breakout sessions at FatCon 2024 probably were titled? Like, if you could imagine the craziest, most bizarre, wild breakout session titles for FatCon, what would you imagine they would be called? I'll wait while you guys drop those in the chat. We've got a question in Instagram. Are you going live every night? Yes, we go live Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern every single day. Okay, Miles Cricket says, how to get bigger. All right, that's probably a good idea. We've got Kelsey Weaver saying fat fashion. You're right on the money. That was a thing. Eliza says food eating contest. Fascinating. We've got 150 ways to stay in bed. Fat free and supersize me. Guys, this is terrible. These are actually really funny though, as good suggestions. And the sad reality is this is where we are. TZ Patriot says round is a shape. That's an interesting choice for a breakout session. Akiva says the bigger the better. Gems says there's no such thing as bad sugars. TC says how to be fat and own it. ALS says why fat is healthy. Guys, it's funny because you pretty much nailed it. Like, if a bunch of creative people got in a room to come up with just the most asinine, ridiculous breakout sessions, keynote speeches for FatCon that you could possibly come up with, that's actually what the agenda for this conference ended up looking like. So here are the breakout sessions, without further ado. Friday, this was last Friday, the main events for FatCon. At 10:15, opening ceremonies. At 12:30, fierce, fat, and femme. At 2, Fat Liberation 101. Maybe I should have attended that because I have no idea what these people are talking about with the term fat liberation. 3:30, Unapologetically Fat, a burlesque history. What? 6:30, Grief Cat performance. Is this like a celebrity, like a person? Is Grief Cat a thing that I should be aware of? What is Grief Cat? It sounds like a cat furry dancing on stage, sadly. But I think I'm reading into that incorrectly, most likely. Although the fact that we would be celebrating cats at a conference like this doesn't really shock me. You guys know how I feel about the cats. Am I supposed to know who Grief Cat is? I guess that's a research project for Isabel moving forward. But that was just the main events. There's also a movement side of things. Okay, that's positive. Working out, move your body. This is good. At 11:45, you could do burlesque silk veil workshops. A 1:15 class on rhythm. 2:45, self-love chair yoga. What is chair yoga? That's not yoga. I'm assuming you just sit in a chair and like stretch your arms. What is, I've never heard of chair yoga. Has anyone ever heard of this in their life, chat? What? Okay, 4:00 p.m. I feel like I'm the Grinch. 4:00, wallow in self-pity. This is 4:00, joyful inclusive movement. Yeah, I would rather wallow in self-pity than go to joyful inclusive movement. That sounds like BLM fists and pride flags and free Palestine t-shirts everywhere at your movement class. Gems says chair yoga is called sitting on ass. Yeah, that's literally what this is. I don't... Chair yoga? What? Ken says chair yoga, goat yoga, please no. 5:15 movement. Take up space. Because women and people of color and fat people need to take up space. Dance and movement for every body. Clearly for bodies. For fat liberation. Then there were panel courses. This is all still just Friday, by the way. There's 3 days of this. 11:45. Building your fat positive birth team. $2.15. Activewear is not enough. We need fat sports gear. Well, I probably would be on board with that, actually. So you have me there, FatCon. You have me there. More people should be playing sports, and then you wouldn't be overweight anymore. But, I digress. 4:00. Knights of the Fat Round Table. Fat community is everything. Sex toys, and liberations for rad fatties. Let me just say this right now, just to be clear on the record. You could not pay me all the money in the world. You could not offer me the riches of all of human history to sit through an hour-long panel seminar called Knights of the Fat Round Table. Fat community is everything, giving out fat sex toys. No part of any sane human being would ever find that interesting. Ever. 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 But wait, there's more. More panels. 11:45. Under Our Skin, Breaking Shame and Building Community Through Creativity. 2:15. A live interview with Madam E. Am I supposed to know who Madam E is? 3:45. Fat Nerds Assemble. I mean, I like nerds assembling, but do we have to be fat? 5:00. Super in Infinifats. What does that even mean? I feel like I'm reading Mandarin. More panels. How to make fat friends at 11:30. 1:00. Praise be to God, I'm thin. Silence, morality, fatness, and Christianity. Presumably, they're trying to suggest that Christianity is shoving thinness on people. I think Christianity is shoving responsibility on your own life on people because you, at the end of the day, have free will and the responsibility to make your own choices. So if you would like to not take care of yourself and make bad decisions and bad choices and sin and refuse to take care of your body appropriately, that's okay. That's on you. But that's on you moving forward. There's no thin cult in Christianity, but apparently, allegedly, there is, according to FatCon. 2:15. More fats, more femme, body confidence in the bedroom. Ah, yes, because you too will have a better sex life if you are fat. It will make you more feminine. And 5:00. Oh, naturally, this is perfect. The Fat and Queer meetup at FatCon. Only for fat and queer people. If you don't fit into both categories, you don't get to go. So that was Friday. We'll zoom through some of the best stuff that we saw on Saturday. Main events, 11:00, being fat in entertainment, a moderated discussion. There is a fat burlesque podcast, apparently. Join a curated group of burlesque humans as they talk about being big/fat/plus in the industry and what FatCon and Fatlesque Fest, hey, I was right, it was about burlesque, as a convention means in terms of increasing visibility for fat performers. Trigger warnings, sexual content, mention of specific sizes and weights, racism/colorism. So they're admitting to themselves, we are racist at FatCon, so you shouldn't come to our breakout session at FatCon because we might be racist. Fascinating. The movement options on Saturday, rope bondage 101. No. 10:45, feeling our fat. We will deeply feel into our fat bodies through embodiment exploration and creative movement. We will practice deepening the sensations in our bodies and how to perceive and honor that somatic wisdom. I'll guide you into exploring how your body moves, fully embracing your fat. We are going to get curious about the jiggles, fold, and the momentum and gravity of fat bodies. Trigger warnings. I love that they're providing these for us so we can be fully prepared. Mental health, internalized fat phobia, and detailed discussion of fat bodies. I'm pretty sure it's already implied that a movement class called Feeling Our Fat would involve detailed discussion of fat bodies, but I'm glad that we had to provide a trigger warning in order to get there. Fascinating. This is just fascinating. Then there's an escalation of your rope bondage 101 class to instead take defying gravity with rope bondage as a class, trusting someone to handle your body with care and confidence so that you can lean in and let go is not something one is inclined to do, while fat rope bondage is for everybody. I'm just going to make this abundantly clear right now. No, it is not. Rope bondage, not for everybody. Unsubscribe, but that's just me. Rope bondage is for everybody, and through a live demonstration of rope suspension, you will not only witness the power and strength of letting go, but you will see how beautiful it is to fly while fat. Trigger warnings, sexual content. Panels for Saturday. Fat or swollen, a self-care guide. 10:30, fat phobia in kink. Lovely. How to make sports more inclusive. Again, I support that. If all of FatCon was about that, I'd probably be a pretty happy camper. 2:30, ask a doctor. Navigating healthcare while fat. Interesting. Fascinating. More panels. More burlesque, fat in the wild, adventures in the outdoors. This one sounds right up Isabel's alley as an outdoors woman. The mountains, trees, and animals do not care what you look like or what you can do, but that isn't always true about the people in the outdoors. I once thought that the world of outdoor adventuring was reserved for the young, the thin, the super fit, and, let's face it, the men. What? You guys, this is so I am blind reacting to all of these sessions. I've never read these before in my life, so this is fun unpacking these in real time with you guys, but this is so ridiculously outrageous that this will be my personal entertainment for the next 7 to 10 business days. Newsflash, in case nobody's made this abundantly obvious to you today, if you want to go outside, go outside. You don't need to be a man. You don't need to be thin. You don't need to be super fit. You don't need to be a certain skin color. If you want to play outside, just go outside. It's literally free. Just walk out. The fresh air is great. You'd love it. It's a phenomenal way to de-stress. Growing up, the owner or the presenter of this panel said, I didn't see my body represented in the outdoor media that I consumed that made me believe I didn't belong there. Now I'm here and very much fat and outdoorsy. If being a hiker, rock climber, biker, camper, or any of those outdoor ventures sounds exciting, but you don't think you belong there because you're in a bigger body, let me show you that that isn't true. We all deserve to be fat and in the wild if that's where we want to be. 2:00 p.m. you can take a course called Fat, Femme, and Effed, Pleasure-Focused Sex for Women in Larger Bodies. Attendees may also explore how sex toys and accessories are specifically designed with larger bodies in mind. 5 p.m. Coming out fat. So we have to come out as fat people now. You can't just be fat. You just have to come out as fat. You have to let people know I identify as fat. 5 p.m. Coming out fat. You're not a skinny person trapped in a fat person's body who needs to find the right diet. You're fat. And you deserve to love every inch of your fat body and take up space doing what you love. Lindsay Johnson, aka Fantastical Fatty, is a fat joy activist who began their fat liberation journey. Pronouns. In 2019, after decades of weight cycling to the point of obsession, when Lindsay finally let go of the pursuit of thinness and made peace with being fat, it was now so obvious how we've all been taught our entire lives that being fat is bad. Well, being morbidly obese is bad. It is wildly unhealthy for you. Obesity directly contributes to innumerous cancers, to diabetes, to strokes, to heart disease, to premature death, among many other problems, bone disease, fractures, skin issues, you name it, all directly stemming from obesity. So yeah, that is bad. That's not evil to say. That's just factually correct to let people know. So that's Saturday. Sunday closes with a fat fashion show and closing ceremonies, but most importantly, this bad boy right here from 10 to 11:15, Fat Brunch. And as much as this whole conference and convention, whatever we want to call it, FatCon sounds horrifying to me, let's all just admit it, we would all go to Fat Brunch. Fat Brunch sounds incredible. Fat Brunch sounds like the brunch of my dreams. So it turns out they have an Instagram. I just discovered this from their website. The FatCon on Instagram, a conference promoting fat liberation for all. Lovely feed going through here. Looks very fascinating to behold. And here's their little recap video for FatCon. I'm going to have to scoot this up. That's a wrap for FatCon 2024. Oh, God. The rope bondage thing? You guys saw that, right? So first of all, this is alone just fascinating wardrobe choices to go to a conference. But did you guys see? Where is it? There. What is this? Oh, no. No. That's a wrap for FatCon 2024. So that happened in Seattle, Washington this week. But again, like I said, and I'll repeat it until the cows come home, because apparently that needs to be said over and over and over again, celebrating obesity and where the body positive movement has just gone completely unhinged and off the rails in the last several years is not okay. It's not. The body positive movement, if it was really positive towards anybody, would be encouraging us to take responsibility for our health and for our wellness, and to encourage us to take care of ourselves. If you were really body positive, you would fuel your body with whole foods and good nutrition. If you were really body positive, you would move your body every single day to the point that you would avoid a risk of being wildly overweight or morbidly obese. If you were really body positive for someone else in your life and wanting to truly love somebody in your life, you would encourage them to do all of the same things. We don't have time today on the stream to go through every single disease that obesity directly contributes to in all of human history. This isn't a new phenomenon, but obviously has become much more exacerbated in recent years because of fat culture becoming the norm of culture, at least in the United States. But again, just to list a few for you: diabetes, heart diseases, strokes, blood clotting diseases, bone density problems, numerous types of cancer, skin problems, etc., all leading towards premature death. And it's fascinating to start doing a little bit of a deep dive on some of these fat influencers, or like the body positive, body acceptance influencers that are out there on social media. All of these people have just the most outrageous things to say on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube, on all their YouTube channels, and yet the vast majority of them pass away within a few years of starting their social media influencer journey, because they are all so wildly sick and we are encouraging driving people to an early grave by just accepting everyone as perfect just the way they are. That's really sad to me. I don't know if it's sad to anybody else, but if we were really accepting or loving or positive towards the people in our lives, wouldn't we be encouraging them to run away as soon as humanly possible from this type of ideology? And not only are we driving people to an early grave, by the way, Jay Donovan says on Instagram, a powerful reminder, not only is this premature death, it is a premature, awful death, painful death, miserable death that we are encouraging people to sentence themselves to in the name of woke culture, which frankly will just continue to blow my mind from here until the day that I die. So, long story short, I missed FatCon, but I would love to go next year and just interview people and see what they're doing with their time, because it's a fascinating cultural experiment to me. Is this the result of reality TV? I have literally no idea. Omnifist Productions is going to round us out with this part of the stream. Whoever would attend an event like this seems deeply unpleasant and insecure. Yeah, that sounds about right. You hit the nail right there on the head. Would you guys go to FatCon ever? Maybe just for the brunch. I would go for the brunch. But let me know in the chat. Switching gears a little bit, there is a whole debate taking the internet by storm today about the one and only former First Lady Michelle Obama. And I'm just going to say this for the record up front because I'm feeling a little salty about it. How long has Isabel Brown been saying on the stream, on Instagram, on TikTok, everywhere on the internet that Joe Biden, more likely than not, was not going to be the nominee for the Democrat Party in 2024? And more likely than not, we were probably looking at a ticket of Gavin Newsom and Michelle Obama in one way, shape, or form, either one as president or vice president, going into the 2024 election. How long? How long? I'll tell you how long, internet people, because I'm really tired of everybody telling me that I was a crazy person for the last several years suggesting that. That'll never happen. That would never, ever, ever happen in a million years. Joe Biden is absolutely going to be the nominee. All of those people seem to be agreeing with my point of view now. I've been saying this since 2020, since like right after the 2020 election. I knew from the get-go they can't do that again. Like, they'll never get away with that again. They will never run Joe Biden again, and he might not even make it to 2024, which is still a pretty high likelihood. We're talking about the oldest president in human history for the United States of America. It's looking a whole lot clearer to people today that Michelle Obama is likely running for president or vice president in some capacity. And the reason that I've been saying this since 2020 really had to do with understanding politics from a 4D chess perspective. So we're going to talk about politics for a little bit. I don't care what political background you come from. I don't care what party you support. This is literally just about political strategy. And if you're interested in learning about how some of this stuff works, I worked in Washington several times. I worked for the U.S. Senate for a senator from Colorado for a while. And then in college, I interned at the White House in 2018 under President Trump. I've done some work on several different campaigns at various different levels of government. Obviously, I've worked with many political nonprofits over the years and been very attached to what's happening inside and outside of Washington and with the last several major elections since high school, really. The longer I spent in Washington, the more I started picking up on how they plant stories and how they specifically try to change the tide of public opinion outside of Washington, D.C. And it's not through ways that you probably ordinarily would expect. It's not through major op-eds or big TV press conferences or even pieces of legislation. If people are really, really smart when it comes to the campaign world, they realize that changing politics means going upstream to change culture first. Andrew Breitbart was famous for saying that politics is always downstream from culture. And if you want to impact what's happening at the White House or in the US Congress or who gets nominated to the Supreme Court, you always need to challenge and change culture First, how people are dating, what TV shows they're watching, what their favorite Saturday afternoon activity looks like, how their kids are enjoying their school curriculum, etc. And over the last 2 years or so, strategically, Michelle Obama, Barack as well, but mostly Michelle, has been planted over and over and over again to do interviews in lifestyle podcasts and in late night TV, in like comedy late night TV out of New York City. And they never talk about politics, ever. They talk about the fact that the girls are all grown up and they come home and they make us charcuterie boards, and we talk about college and how fun that is for them, and it's so fun to see them as adults. They talk about what the house looks like now and what you're eating and what's on your Spotify playlist. They talk about these new Netflix series that they're helping to produce and all kinds of things in culture. But Michelle Obama has yet to do a major interview about politics until this week. She sat down in an interview and started talking about how the 2024 election is, in her words, keeping her up at night, and how the government does everything. That's the scariest sentence in all of human history, by the way, but the government does everything for people, or at least it's supposed to, and she doesn't think that it's doing that appropriately right now. Don't take my word for it. We're going to watch the clip together, and I just want your honest and raw reaction thoughts, so prepare to drop them in the chat to this clip that's going mega viral on Twitter today.
The things that keep me up, because you don't have control over them. Mm-hmm. And you wonder, where are we in this? Where are our hearts? What's going to happen in this next election?
These are the things that keep me up at night. I'm going to replay this. These are the things that keep me up at night. The things about our hearts and the things about people. And specifically, did you hear that? This next election is keeping me up at night.
The things that keep me up, because you don't have control over them. Mm-hmm. And you wonder.
And it keeps me up because I don't have control over it.
Where are we in this? Where are our hearts? What's going to happen in this next election? I am terrified about what could possibly happen.
I am terrified about what could possibly happen in this next election.
Because our leaders matter. Who we select, who speaks for us, who holds that bully pulpit. It affects us in ways that sometimes I think people take for granted.
Our leaders matter. Who we elect, who speaks for us, who the president is going to be, matters in ways that people often take for granted. So in isolation, you might think, okay, Isabel, you're reading way too much into this. She is not saying that she's running for president of the United States. She didn't even hint that she was running for president of the United States. First of all, I think you'd have to be blind and stupid to not think that she's at least hinting to run for something and have a leadership capacity for some reason, because this is the first time in any of these interviews, of which she's done dozens upon dozens in the last year or so, that she's talked about needing control the election and who our leaders are. So there's absolutely at least a hint there. But even if you think I'm reading way too much into this, you can't look at this interview in isolation, because there's another story about the 2024 election that's going hugely viral this week. And it comes on the tail of some really high-ranking former Obama administration advisors in the Obama White House saying that Joe Biden probably doesn't have the best trajectory in the 2024 election. That happened a few weeks to a few months ago. Some really high-ranking people in the Obama administration came forward and said, we actually don't think Joe Biden has the greatest chance to win. We would encourage him to step down if we were advising his campaign. That was a little story that went wildly underreported about several weeks to several months ago out of Washington. But now, as of yesterday, a JP Morgan strategist, this is from Business Insider, is specifically predicting that Joe Biden is going to drop out of the 2024 race. This is not a random op-ed from a tiny blog website on some dark corner of the dark web internet. This is Business Insider running this story. The Economist Economist was reporting on this story. Several different left-wing news organizations were sharing very similar headlines. The way that Washington works, if you haven't worked in Washington, D.C., or you haven't spent a lot of time learning about politics, or you don't binge every single great political TV show of all time. By the way, Veep is literally playing out before our very eyes right now and is one of the best and most accurate TV shows about what it's like to work in Washington. The fact that this headline was run in Business Insider yesterday, in The Economist yesterday, in all kinds of left-leaning major news outlets means this is probably happening. They had some strategist take credit for the prediction that it's going to happen. It's not a press release yet, but they're testing public opinion to see how people are reacting to it, to make sure people aren't going to freak out, while they simultaneously make sure that this interview, and we're not going to play it again, but this interview is running and going viral all at exactly the same time, because you're planting the exact same two thoughts in people's minds from every background of the political spectrum. A, that Joe Biden is going to be pulling out for whatever reason, that he's not going to be the nominee, and B, that our leaders matter, that who speaks for us matters, and we're so terrified it's keeping us up at night that no matter who the Republicans run, it's going to destroy America and destroy democracy forever. So if our leaders matter, who better to elect than somebody that the left universally loves, worships? Like, I've never seen this type of admiration for anybody in politics ever before than I have seen for Michelle Obama. And most of you guys could probably relate to that. There's just this level of like almost religious fanaticism about supporting Michelle Obama, and I highly doubt any of them want Kamala Harris to actually be the first female president, but what a legacy for the left if Michelle Obama was able to be the first female president, or even the next female vice president. They are very, very, very strategically planting this headline and that video in the media at the exact same time. This is how Washington works, in order to make sure that people draw the natural conclusion in their own two brains. So here's what this JP Morgan strategist is saying, really probably what the Biden campaign allegedly is telling us is probably going to happen. Business Insider reported yesterday, Joe Biden could pull out from this year's presidential elections, says a JP Morgan strategist. Michael Kembelest says Biden's withdrawal could happen sometime between Super Tuesday and the November election. That's like the longest chunk of time possible. So let me explain that a little bit to you. The way that the DNC nomination rules work is very, very different from how the Republican nomination process works. And all of the rules are fundamentally different. If you guys remember a few years ago when Bernie was winning like primary after primary after primary, and everybody said that Hillary Clinton essentially stole the nomination from Bernie Sanders at the DNC convention over that summer. I was at that convention in Delaware. It was wild. Standing outside with lots of fun posters. It was a fun time to be alive. Basically, who you nominate at the DNC, regardless of what the primaries actually look like, ends up being the nominee. So it's highly likely that at any time, Joe Biden can say, yeah, even though I won all of these primary elections, I don't really want to be the nominee anymore. And at the convention, somebody else ends up getting nominated that has widespread support from all of the delegates to the DNC convention. Their rules work very, very differently from the Republican Party. So this isn't out of the question and is actually pretty likely as to something that could happen. They say this is Business Insider, not exactly a right-wing friendly publication, and many other left-wing publications have headlines and stories very similar to this. Biden's candidacy has been beset with concerns over his low approval ratings and his advanced age. President Joe Biden may not be on November's ballot papers, says this asset management strategist. He predicted, they're testing the waters here, that Biden would drop out from the race sometime between Super Tuesday and the November election, citing health reasons. I'm sorry. How many times, I'm sorry I'm so salty about this, but how many times have I said exactly this would happen for the last 4 years? And every single right-wing podcaster and television talking head and live stream host or influencer on social media was like, that would never happen. That would literally never happen. Michelle Obama would literally never run for president. Joe Biden will make it all the way through. People, Someday, somebody's going to realize I'm a lot smarter than I look, is all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Super Tuesday is set for March 5th with 16 states and territories holding their primaries and caucuses. But like I just said, Biden would then be replaced by a candidate named by the DNC. Basically, they would say that they don't care who won all of the primaries. They don't care how any of these elections work. They would just name somebody new at the Democratic National Committee convention, which happens over the summer. This is the chairman of market and investment strategy at JP Morgan. So not exactly a random strategist who happens to work for a major financial company. This is a very powerful corporate individual who probably is directly responsible for funding a lot of these major campaigns. They chose this person to make the prediction for a specific reason when it comes to this political story being a strategy or a prediction in the future. They're trying to give it some actual weight in the news cycle so that they can accurately see how people are going to respond to this and test the story moving forward. It made the prediction in his list of top 10 possible surprises for 2024. He says Biden has a low approval rating for a president with his roughly 10% job creation since his inauguration, although that figure is the byproduct of his inauguration coinciding with the rollout of COVID vaccines and a reopening of the U.S. economy. So basically, we can't say that he actually created that many jobs. In April was when he announced his re-election bid and urged voters to let him finish the job. He has framed himself at 81 years old as the best candidate to defeat former President Donald Trump and to safeguard American democracy. And this is what I want us to really focus on this conversation moving forward. This concept of protecting democracy, this concept of saving American democracy from the tyranny of the right, theoretically, is repeated in everybody on the left's mouths right now. In all of the podcast interviews, in all of the social media posts, in all of the news hits, this is what is said over and over and over again. So this is coming from the DNC. It's not coming from the Biden campaign. America, as we begin this election year, we must be clear. Democracy is on the ballot. Your freedom is on the ballot, which is ironic for a zillion possible reasons. Wildly ironic for a zillion possible reasons. But here's my biggest prediction, okay? And this is just complete conjecture, but biggest prediction as for how all of this is going to work. Biden is going to be unable to retain the nomination because of health reasons of some sort. He's 81 years old. He's in very clear failing health. Anything could happen, if you know what I mean. But even if it didn't, I think he would pretty easily be able to say, I just don't have the health and the stamina to do a second term anymore. I'm going to step back and let somebody else take the mantle here to protect American democracy. The media and the establishment left are going to absolutely freak out. They're going to freak out and say, oh my gosh, Donald Trump is going to win this election. This is the end of America as we know it. This is the end of our democracy as we know it, even though we're a constitutional republic. We're not a democracy, which is fascinating to understand. But this is the end of the free world as we know it. If Donald Trump wins election, again, it's going to be insurrection every day. He's a literal dictator. We have to do everything we can to make sure that this doesn't happen. And out of the shadows, two people are going to step forward to save American democracy and safeguard our country from what they're going to call white supremacy or MAGA extremism or like insane alt-right fascism, whatever they're trying to call it. And it's going to be Michelle Obama and Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom, as a conservative, you might think, oh my gosh, who would ever support that? But also, like Michelle Obama, has wild, unfailing support, mostly from young left-wing voters going into any election, obviously, but particularly a major presidential election. And I think the language that's going to be used here is Donald Trump is a racist. Donald Trump is a white supremacist. That's going to be every headline moving forward. So who better to fight back against that than Michelle Obama, who's able to save our country from the radical white supremacy and the radical MAGA terrorism that's taking hold and destroying our democracy. Unfortunately, I don't think it matters at all who the Republican Party puts up at that point. That ticket would win in a landslide. It would be probably the biggest landslide in election history in the United States because of this level of fanaticism for Michelle Obama that I have never, ever seen before. And I wish people had listened to me because I've been saying this for 4 years, but it looks like it's all going to happen very, very soon. So, chat, am I right? Is my prediction probably going to come true? Do you guys think I'm reading way too much into this? I don't. I mean, I think there's a zillion predictions in that little clip where she starts talking about politics for the first time ever, but maybe I'm just reading way too much into it and playing the tinfoil hat game way too much. I don't know. John Best says Dan Bongino has also hinted that Michelle Obama or greasy Gavin Newsom will be the nominee. Yeah, I've seen a lot of that stuff from Dan. He's really, really smart. I totally agree with a lot of his predictions. People are now starting to come around. All the people that have spent the last several years saying, that's ridiculous, that's crazy, that would never happen, are now all of a sudden saying, oh yeah, that's looking pretty likely. But Dan Bongino has been there from day one. He's pretty great. Nick says absolutely true. T-Stev says, yes, your prediction is correct and depressing. Made in CC says, you are right. I predicted the same things for years. Real Hey Ken says, I think it's going to happen. Michelle Obama running. Saved by Grace says, yeah, I said the same thing about his health, but I wasn't necessarily thinking her. That's interesting. That's really interesting. Fascinating. Somebody has a fun question for me that I think is interesting. Emmy says, what made you a Republican? I'm curious. You know, interestingly, I don't even know that I would call my political philosophy Republican these days. I'm registered to vote with the Republican Party, but I'm really independently conservative for a million different reasons. And I think most people in our generation would probably agree with that assessment. I feel pretty wildly disenfranchised from the major political parties because I'm just really tired of people who have been in Washington for longer than twice the time that I have been alive, continuing to run for office and making empty promises to keep themselves in power and make zillions of dollars while destroying quality of life for everybody younger than them and no accountability for their actions whatsoever. I am a very interesting voter going into this next election, and that's all I'm really going to say about that. I have not really made up my mind on what I'm looking for in terms of an ideal candidate, but a lot of fun interviews and stuff to come with all of that here on the stream. There's a little hint for you for a fun interview dropping next week in case any of you are paying attention. But I actually write about this quite often in my new book that's coming out in March. It's called The End of the Alphabet, and talks a lot about this phenomenon with Gen Z kind of thinking bigger than the existing two-party system, but looking towards policy solutions and individual people as a better strategy moving forward for America than just blindly supporting any of the two political parties, the major political parties. And well over 50% of new Gen Z voters are all registering to vote as independents, which I think is really, really fascinating to try to wrap your head around. I love certain candidates that happen to align with the right, but I'm also really, really pissed at certain candidates that happen to align with the right. And I think most young people my age really feel that way about the right and the left. We're just really tired of being told that we only have two choices, and then watching people and candidates that we really appreciate and we really support having to compromise and let go of all of their values in order to fall in line or like keep the base happy with any of these particular parties. That's not how anybody in the rest of the world does politics in terms of building a coalition and actually getting things done with true leadership. And I'm really tired of seeing values not even be compromised on, but just be completely erased in order to appease really powerful billionaire people and these elitist families that have been controlling Washington politics for way too long in order to try to win, because the truth is we don't actually win when that happens. So that's a little brief overview into all of that, but I was raised in a really conservative home. I have very conservative values. That's not a surprise. I talk about it all the time on Instagram, on the stream, everywhere in between. I've written about that at large many, many times in my former book and lots of op-eds, all of that stuff, and especially in this new book that you guys can pre-order. It's in the link of this description of this video or in my bio link on Instagram. But Gen Z is really set to shake things up, and I think I really share a lot of the generational characteristics of voting behaviors and values that we hold as a generation, far more than I would say I'm a diehard like Republican conservative voter, which is super interesting. So that's a little fun tidbit for you. But everybody thinks Michelle Obama may in fact be running for president. It's a really, really crazy reality that we all happen to be living through, sadly. I wish that it wasn't, but that's my prediction for you going into 2024. I think it's all gonna go down here pretty quickly. I promised you guys to end the stream today that we would do about 20 minutes of an open forum Q&A, because it's been a while since we've done one of those here on the stream. Every single day we normally do a little Q&A and a post-game show in our locals community that we would love to have you guys join. I think it's a really fascinating way for us to get to know each other a little bit better. You guys can make friends that share your values. It's just a really fun place to be. There's also some special bonus content that only exists over there for you guys. But since we have so many new subs on YouTube and tons of new followers on Instagram from over the weekend, we are going to do an Ask Me Anything for the next 20 minutes or so. It can be about any of the things we talked about today. It can be about anything else that's on your guys' mind. That last question was a good segue into all of this. So I know there's a little bit of a lag for the stream and the live chat, but I'll hang out for a second. And if you guys have any questions about anything under the sun, drop them over in the chat. And it will be a fun time for the next 20 minutes of the stream. Jam Man says, you are dope. Thanks, Jam Man. Good to be friends with you and glad that you are here. Hassam wants to know where I am from. I was born in Idaho, in southern Idaho, and when I was about 6 months old, I moved to the mountains of Colorado, and I spent the vast majority of my childhood growing up in a beautiful, beautiful town about 30 minutes into the mountains west of Denver in Colorado. It was a very idyllic childhood. We moved a lot, like I said earlier, so when we were moving back and forth, I spent several years of my childhood living in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, in north Idaho, in the super thin part of the Panhandle, about 30 minutes from Spokane, Washington. Also a beautiful place to grow up as a kid, but Colorado will always be home for me. I went to college at Colorado State University in Fort Collins, and then after college went to grad school at Georgetown in Washington, D.C., lived in Washington, D.C. for about a year, then spent a few years living in Arizona, and now I live in Florida. So very, very long story short, I'm from Colorado. But now live in Florida. Jeff, hey Jeff, glad you're here. And I love your paintings and your artwork. Huge mega fan. Asks, how do you get crystal clear live video? I hope it's showing up as crystal clear for you guys on your end, because my feedback on my Instagram does not look great. This is new on Instagram. They just started doing it a couple of weeks ago, last month, called RTMP streaming. It's how we do our live stream on all of the long form platforms that we stream on every day, which is YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, all of that stuff. We're live there right now too, but Instagram just created a plugin where you can put your RTMP stream into Instagram. So I'm actually streaming with a DSLR camera, a really nice like 4K streaming camera right now, not my phone's webcam. So that probably makes a huge difference when it comes to the quality of all of the video stuff. But keep up the amazing work, and I love your art, and I share it with literally so many people, and I think that's so awesome. Okay. Oh, this is fun. This is really fun. I got to make sure I read through all of these so that I don't circulate too much on one platform and I see that everybody gets to have their questions answered. Okay, Omnifist, Isabel, considering some future ambitions of yours with your platform, would you ever be interested in interviewing musicians, actors, comedians, etc.? Yes, and we have a stellar freaking lineup that we're working on for you guys on awesome guests for 2024 in all of those categories: musicians, actors, comedians, all of the above. If you guys have any recommendations for a guest that you would love to see on the live stream, it does not have to be about politics or religion. That's what we talk about more often than anything else. But anything under the sun that you think would be a really interesting interview, go ahead and drop those names in the chat below or off to the side, depending on where you're watching, and we will do our absolute best to get them scheduled for you guys. That is a very, very fun place to be. Alex, sorry our locals chat is lagging. I will go ahead and refresh it. They've had some server issues lately, so we'll make sure that we get that all ready to go for you guys. Here we go. Sorry, the chat was lagging. Crazy cat lady who just got engaged in our locals community. Congrats, girl. So, Isabel, how well do you handle the constant opinions and suggestions when it comes to wedding planning? As my man and I are just starting out planning, we are already starting to get frustrated with people for wanting to tell us what to do. Great question. And I'm sure so many of you guys have had a very similar experience when planning your wedding. So, the biggest shock, I think, in planning my wedding was not just all of like the little tiny things that had to go together in wedding planning that you don't really think about. Like, you have to plan really ridiculously small things that you never, ever, ever grew up thinking were going to be a part of your wedding planning experience. But it actually was this concept of everyone is going to have an opinion. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. Like, sometimes you want the opinions of your siblings or your parents or whatever, but sometimes you just really don't. Like, you know exactly what you want, and they had a really different image in their mind of what this was going to look like than the image that you have. And it was actually one of the first things that Brock, my fiance, and I were told right after we got engaged by a cousin of his. She was like, I can't wait for you guys to start planning your wedding. This is so awesome. But just a fair warning, everybody has an opinion about your wedding. Everybody, even people that you never would have expected would have one. And the best advice I can give you is that it is your day, and this is a celebration of your relationship and your love, and you can ask for their opinion, you can ask for their input, but really at the end of the day, your wedding is supposed to be about you. And I've tried really hard to just keep that in mind throughout the process, and that's the best advice that I can pass on to you from the person that gave it to us. Your mom loves you, and she's amazing, and your siblings love you, and they're amazing, and your mother-in-law loves you and is amazing, but sometimes they have a very different image in their head of what they think your wedding is supposed to look like, but it's not their wedding. It is your wedding. So you can ask for their feedback. You can ask as a sounding board for their opinion on certain things. You can ask for their help through all of this stuff, but at the end of the day, this is supposed to be a celebration of you and your fiance and the start of your life together in creating a new family. And so sometimes you just have to have a conversation with people of like, hey, we might be approaching this differently. We might be thinking about it really differently, but I hope that you can appreciate where I'm coming from and that you can respect that this is what we want to do with our day. That's the nicest way to handle some of that. But girl, I feel you. I absolutely feel you. Emrock, question. Did you actually go and have lemonade today with the boys and Dave? Great show today. If you guys didn't already know, I co-host a new live call-in show with Dave Rubin from 1 o'clock to about 1:45 Eastern time, Monday through Thursday. And we were talking about some old video game called Lemonade Stand, like before video games were even a thing. It was like a math game on a computer. Yeah, it was a fascinating conversation. Not to totally own Dave on that one, but it does not sound like a fun game. I was over here talking about Webkins and Club Penguin, and he's like, oh yeah, I played this math game called Lemonade Stand where you just plugged in numbers and it told you how much money you made from your lemonade. And I was like, what? So anyway, that was that conversation. No, I did not yet go have lemonade, but I'm hoping to before the end of the day. Alex has a fun question for us on YouTube. What is the best way to read? Audiobooks, read in silence, or have music in the background? I am a big believer in paper books, not audiobooks and not Kindle or like ebooks. I really truly believe reading a book with paper and actually having to flip the page is the only appropriate and proper way to read a book. But I don't really care if there's music on in the background or not. I've always kind of been able to focus on the book that's right in front of me, no matter if people were talking in the background or if people were playing music or I was out in public. I kind of like distractions and noise in the background when I'm reading books, but I love reading a good book. All right. I want to make sure I'm not missing any huge questions. Amy, what are your biggest pet peeves with politics and just life in general? Okay, personal pet peeves. I hate when people try to sing songs when they don't know the lyrics to the song, when they're just like, to the song. No, hate that. Huge pet peeve. Really drives me insane. My youngest siblings, middle sibling, not my youngest sibling, but my middle sibling, Gabby, has this tendency to like bounce her leg. You guys can't see me do it, but when we're sitting in church or we're at the movie theater or whatever, she bounces her leg. And now my fiance is a leg bouncer. He just has to like bounce his leg all the time. I don't know why you have to bounce your leg all the time. I don't get it. It drives me nuts. I can only focus on the leg bouncing and not like at the movies or at church when I'm supposed to be paying attention to. The leg bouncing thing, huge pet peeve. Biggest pet peeve in politics is all of the hypocritical people who say that they support freedom of expression and freedom of speech and who regularly utilize every single video platform out there available to try to break free of the mainstream media. And then they say that TikTok is evil and that we should ban TikTok because your data, even though their data is getting taken from all of the other platforms that they use as well. I talk about this all the time on the live stream. I have countless live streams about TikTok and all of this absolute insane nonsense. Easily my biggest pet peeve in politics by far. And I wish that people would pay more attention to all of that stuff because I think it's just ridiculous, to be totally honest with you. A bunch of people are asking about Students for Life, which is perfect because I want to talk about it with you guys anyway. There are Students for Life chapters all over New Jersey, to answer your question, Luna. And I know that there are several in Pennsylvania. Jenna, if you just go to their website, you'll be able to find where the nearest chapter to you is, and you guys should join it. In case you don't know what Students for Life is, they are an activism organization all over the country who has chapters on high school and college campuses to help promote a life message, a life-based message, pro-life. And as we gear up for the March for Life happening next Friday in Washington, D.C., I will be there, and I hope that I will see you guys there as well. On Saturday, after the March for Life, Students for Life is hosting their annual National Pro-Life Summit. They have a huge VIP guest that they are announcing tomorrow, I believe, who's going to be speaking at the event. Really, really excited about all of this stuff, but I'll be there. I'll be hosting the event on social media for them. There's tons of great speakers. It's a great place to get to know people in Washington, D.C., which is a super fun city in case you guys have never been to visit, and I can't wait for you guys to be there. So if you use my name, Isabel, ISABEL, and then the number 10, so overall the code is Isabel 10. Sorry, I have too much stuff in front of me. I'm trying to, there we go. To buy your ticket, I'm dropping that in the chat right now for you guys to use. You'll be able to get a discount on your ticket price to attend the National Pro-Life Summit. If you happen to be on the East Coast and it's easy for you guys to get to Washington, D.C. for the National Pro-Life Summit, I would love it if I got to see you guys there because it is super fun and I cannot wait to be back. I was the MC of their event last year, and if you guys saw on YouTube or wherever, we had some really viral clips going this year. I actually joined Kristen Hawkins, who is the founder and CEO of Students for Life, on her speaking tour last spring semester. It was fascinating as an experience, and we had a total blast trying to change people's hearts and minds on easily the most important human rights issue of our time. So I hope to see you guys at the Students for Life conference, but there are definitely chapters near you, and if you just go to their website, you'll be able to figure all of that out. Cookie Monster says, as a fellow citizen of Idaho, do you enjoy going out to the gun range and shooting, or is that not your thing? That is absolutely my thing, 100% my thing. I love going to the range. I like outdoor and indoor ranges. I've really gotten into outdoor ranges the older I've gotten, though, because I just think it's really fun to shoot more of a variety of stuff. Like if I'm just practicing with my handgun, I'll go to the indoor range. But if I want to go shoot clay pigeons or like target practice or whatever, I love going to the outdoor range as well. In Colorado, there's a really fun outdoor range that we go to in the mountains that's near a ski resort, and that's always really fun to get to go to and spend some time with my cousins or my siblings or whatever. Big Second Amendment girl, very big believer in all of that stuff, and that probably did come from my childhood growing up in Idaho, because everybody in Idaho loves doing all of that stuff too, which I think is super fun. I'm gonna keep scrolling through here because I want to make sure I answer. Everybody's asking where to get my corgi light. I think I got it on Etsy, I'm pretty sure, but I don't actually know, to be totally honest with you. I'm pretty sure it was Etsy. I bought it a long time ago. Okay, I'm scrolling. I gotta make sure I read all of your guys' questions to try to get to some of these. I hope everybody's having a great day. Okay, I think this is mostly all of the questions. Oh, you locals, sorry. Your chat is not refreshing at all. My apologies. All right, I don't see a ton of other questions coming through. So, all of that to be said, you guys are the best. Before we end out the stream today, please do me a huge favor. And if you haven't already liked this stream, please do so. That might look like a little thumbs up or a little heart, but it just helps more people have the opportunity to get their eyes on all of the amazing things that we talked about today. And as you're going, please do me a huge favor and smash that follow or subscribe button no matter where you're watching. We are organically and independently growing all of these channels one person at a time. So every single time you guys hit follow or subscribe, it makes the biggest difference in the world to help us get to where we are hoping to go in 2024. I already teased this a little bit, but we have a very, 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 very special guest joining us on the stream on Monday. I'm actually flying to go meet this person on Friday and spend the whole day with them and record a really awesome sit-down interview. So all of that is coming to you guys on Monday on the stream with some awesome fun bonus content associated with it as well. That's all I'm going to tell you about that so far. So enjoy that little teaser over the next several days. But we're back for the stream tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern as well across platforms. You guys are the most amazing people in the world. I love getting to know you more every day, and I can't wait to see you right back here tomorrow. Love you guys. Bye.